Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining today. I am so delighted to have James Hatfield here on the show today. As many of you know, I talk a lot about AI, and this particular episode is going to be a little bit broader than just AI, but it'll obviously connect to it as well. James has an incredible background, which he's going to share in a minute. But what I'm really, really interested in is to hear his story about LifeSwitch and what they're doing in this space. When he first reached out to me and talked to me about it, I was completely blown away by the technology and what it can do for brands and companies. So that's what we're really going to be talking about today, where we're going to kind of like learn from him about what the technology is and what it can do, and it may hopefully inspire you to think about different ways to create new touch points for your brand, basically. So, James, welcome to the show.
I'm grateful to be here, excited to share a few stories and lessons learned with the audience. Thanks for having me today.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, before we get too far down the pike, let's start first with about you. Tell us who you are. Tell us your story and your journey, and how you ended up at LifeSwitch. So, just give us that storyline.
Yeah, I do not have a typical pathway to technology. I'm not your typical guy. I come from a blue collar background. My grandfather actually never even graduated high school. His dad died young, so he had to go get a job at a tire shop. My father has built his own house from the ground up. We're just kind of from the dirt kind of guys. So I knew how to take care of homes. Like I was great at painting, power washing homes, things around the house. And so when I graduated, I decided to open up a painting and power washing company. And that's what I knew how to do. And then I found out I became an accidental business owner. I don't know if anyone else can relate. You're good at it with your hands, and you become an accidental business owner. And I'm sitting with my bookkeeper, and they're talking to me in English, and I'm nodding, but I didn't understand a word coming out of their mouth. And I'm like, this is not good. I'm a business owner. I've got staff and salaries and things to pay. And I think I probably need to go back to university while I'm running my companies and really understand business and accounting. So that's what I did. Went to a state school while I'm running my companies. And as I graduated, I had a guy reach out to me. He was graduating from Duke University, and he built the problem I had. So even before AI and LLMs and all the talk around what I know you discuss often, he built an expert system just over 20 years ago that you could take an income statement and balance sheet, put it through the system, and you would get a plain language report to a business owner how you're doing. So he solved the problem I had. He said, "Do you
Mhm.
think you could sell this?" I'm like, "Well, I can try. I'm good at knocking on doors and getting jobs, and I'm a blue collar salesman." And so I got on the phone, and sure enough, we took that company from nothing to Inc. 500 for 3 years, and then we exited with KKR. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. And so that's
Wow.
how I got into tech. And then we'll get into live switch in a little bit. But again, accidental business owner to accidental technology guy.
Amazing. What a story, and what an arc. And that just goes to show you that there is no one path to success, right? It is so individual, and a lot of it's based on recognizing your situation, recognizing the opportunity, and then just having that courage to go do something about it, right? That's really where the rubber hits the road at the end of the day.
I agree. I agree. Being willing to make big risks can obviously be scary, but also can really pay off. After we sold, we both got into philanthropy. I built a nonprofit, have staff with that now, started that from nothing. And then he started Inmates to Entrepreneurs. We put thousands of incarcerated men through our programs to teach them entrepreneurship. And it even
Mhm.
turned into an ABC television show called Free Enterprise.
Oh wow.
So yeah, my business partner's a television star. I can't ever believe that. I always it's great though. And then we've been able to hire folks out of the program and really build Live Switch, which is where we're at now. We decided, hey, we're too young to kind of hang up our cleats, but let's build another unapologetically for-profit company with
Mhm.
technology. And then this time, instead of starting one from scratch, because as you know, startups, 90% of them fail. So we figured we'd go ahead and purchase, and we found a company that was 12 years old, and we bought the company about 5 years ago, and
Okay.
lead to a brand new journey where we are today. And I'm excited to talk about that.
Amazing, amazing. Since you brought it up now, so let's talk about it. What is Life Switch? Tell us what's the value proposition. Tell us, you know, uh, what it does and where you want to take it. We'll talk about all those things in a minute,
Oh
but
yeah.
let's just break it down and start with what is Life Switch.
Yep. Well, I'm a storyteller, right? So I'm a long story long guy. I'm not a long story short guy, right? So we get
Okay.
into this company, we buy the company, the founder's still here. We're surrounded by computer scientists. And I'm a builder, I love technology. So I start out as the product officer and I'm learning what's called web RTC, web real-time communication. I'm like, what did we buy here? So now again, I'm sitting with the engineers. Again, they're speaking English to me and I'm nodding. I was like, I don't understand a word coming out of your guys' mouth. That's not good. I've built a lot of technology over last 20 years and I don't understand you. Well, live video streaming is incredibly difficult at high speed levels. And so we're solving problems. And what ended up happening is the chief of police in Washington, D.C. knocked on our door, and I got the opportunity to reinvent our nation's 911 phone call. And so the idea is everyone carries around a cell phone in their pocket now with 3, 4, 5 cameras. How can we, when a citizen's compromised and they're on 911, which is telephony, all right, how do I get into those cameras when somebody's compromised? So it can't be hard at all because when you're in compromise, you're not thinking straight. So actually woke up at 3 in the morning. I was like, I got it. I have the idea. We're going to come in through an SMS text message. So as you make the 911 call, the SMS text message come in, you tap it, it goes right into your cameras, and you can point your camera at the situation, and that live video stream will go right to the police car, fire truck, or emergency medical. This is called situational awareness, next generation policing. And sure enough, the next thought was, well, who else can use a no app, tap a text, you see what I see solution? So I follow the bouncing ball. The next person I meet, he takes care of the Nashville, Tennessee Titans NFL football team, 20 years in the FBI. I'm sitting down and I'm showing him everything about our emergency response. And he says, James, I have a really dumb question. I really do like what you have for the emergency response, but he's like, this arena that I manage here in Nashville is huge. And sometimes the trash cans fall over all the way across the other way. And my guy's over there, can I just text him and he can show me so I don't have to hop in my little golf cart? And I was like, oh, yeah. And that was when the big light bulb moment happened because it reminded me of my home service days on the painting and power washing company. We had Nextel walkie-talkies. You remember those things?
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
What happened to those? I love that. I could talk to anybody on my team anywhere at any time, but those went by the wayside, I guess. But I was like, this is a Nextel walkie-talkie, but with our eyes, where I can see what you see. And so I thought, let me talk to some business owners, right? So the first business I talked to of all businesses was self-storage. I'm like, okay. I met this very credible guy, 30 years in self-storage. He's like, James, I think you could use this maybe in remote management. I'm like, what do you mean? Because I didn't know anything about self-storage. He said, we're trying to take care of all these buildings all over the country with less and less people. Can you figure this out? And I'm like, well, I am the nerd with the glasses. So he's like, come with me to Vegas. I'll introduce you to all the smarty pants guys and you'll figure it out. And so I came in with my virgin eyes and I saw they had these big like kiosks, like to talk to people. I'm like, man, I can replace that with a piece of paper. The kiosk is in the pocket, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so in my ignorance again, I'm calling on companies that say moving and storage. It said storage. So I'm like, I got to call them. No, they deal with moving boxes. And I meet another credible guy. I'm showing him everything like we're talking about now. And he's like, James, we'll just use this to do our remote estimates. Like the most expensive thing I do as a business owner is put an hourly wage employee in one of my trucks so they can go across town. They'll meet someone, give them a price, and the person's like, it's that much? I'll just get 2 pizzas and all my friends, right? And we'll move the house.
Yeah.
And now he's like, this will help me see what they see, determine if they're worth driving out for, or sometimes even bid it remotely. And he was right. Our stuff is now under the hood of Service Titan, Jobber, HubSpot, you name it. And we have
Wow.
thousands and thousands of users on our platform using this every day. And it's great for the environment and it's really fast for consumers. So it allows you to, with one text, you see what I see. And that's the value. That's the long story long to your short question.
Oh my gosh. Look, as you're describing, your story, I'm already having ideas for you already, so I could see, repairmen, for example, if they need to have technical expertise, they can point it, and they can kind of like have those kinds of conversations, or forget the repairman. Me as a homeowner, I've got something broken before I, call for a plumber or somebody, pointed, and suddenly you're getting expert advice from that perspective. That would be incredible, I would think, right?
Yeah, you're in our head now. So now your space is coming into my space, which
Yeah.
is AI, right? And what the power
Yes.
of what we're going to be able to do. I still believe in a human
Mhm.
connection. Right now, I've been on a bunch of different stages, and I'll even get on stage and we will cold call businesses, secret shop
Yeah.
them. And I just want to see the
Mhm.
experience. I'm really very tuned in to customer experience. In my last organization, I even called my entire team the customer buying experience, because I'm
Mhm.
very, from a consumer point of view, how does that go and how does that look?
Mhm.
And how does this technology disrupt what we're used to, right? Of any
Yeah.
industry. I mean, we can go to any industry and there's a huge disruption going on, right?
Mhm.
And this little company named Amazon really ruined all of us. Okay. Well, we were already ruined, right?
Yeah.
I'm impatient, right? Everybody listening probably has an Amazon Prime membership, and it tells
Mhm.
if you have an Amazon Prime membership, you are impatient. It's just what it is. Why? Because you can buy your stuff and wait 2 weeks to get the box.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
Amazon Prime, now it's 2 days. Now it's overnight, and now for some, it's in hours.
Yeah.
So all of these spaces and consumers are now being trained to expect things immediately. We do not like to wait. We
Mhm.
don't want to
Mhm.
wait. So why would that be any different with any industry, right? So
Correct.
we call it speed to lead, race to the face, right? When someone
Mhm.
calls your business, how
Mhm.
fast can you get a human face in front of them? Now, what
Mhm.
we're trying to do right now with AI is have a barrier. I understand, because of the value to the bottom line. But when you're mad, or you are wanting to buy something, or something in your house is broken, your air conditioning is out. When your air
Yeah.
conditioning is out and it's the middle of summer, how long do you like to wait for that to get fixed?
Oh my gosh, I can answer that question right away. I want it like in the next hour. So
When the toilet's leaking, how fast do you want it?
it's
When the kitchen just caught
exactly.
on fire, right?
Yep.
So now what happens is when that call comes in, you can instantly send a text. You see what I see, and I've got Serve Pros as customers, college hunks moving junk, one-time
Mhm.
plumbers,
Mhm.
electricians, HVAC folks, and now they're able to quickly see what's going on. And especially like if you're experiencing loss, like with our restoration companies, if your kitchen gets on fire,
Mhm.
you're not going to be a happy guy. Your
No.
kitchen just caught on fire for whatever reason,
Yep.
right? But now when you can connect with someone and say, "There's my kitchen," and they're like, "Oh, we've seen this before," and especially if it's an emergency, we'll come out right now. But some
Yeah.
people think like their toilet starts leaking, it's DEFCON 5. I'm like, no, it's not DEFCON 5. Let's just turn your water off. We'll be there in
Yeah.
the morning. It's okay. Um,
Yeah.
but it's allowing for that customer experience to get them feeling settled. And we're seeing
Yeah.
this disruption in all industries, not just home services, but everywhere, whether it's automotive repair. And it's shining light and transparency. I don't know if you've gone to get your car work done here recently, but now the mechanics are showing video of each
Mhm.
step of their process. Here's your oil change, here's your filter change. And they're showing it because that level of transparency, what used to happen, I don't know if you're like me, you go to the Jiffy Lube, right? You let them bring the car out and you'd sit in the little office and then they'd come out and say, well, we need to do like, and you don't even know if they did the work,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Like, did they even change the
Exactly.
oil? I don't know. But
Yeah.
transparency, shining light, seeing things makes the customer and more trust. And it works both ways because
Yeah.
sometimes customers think, like let's say with the restoration example, if I have someone to come fix whatever and there's already marks on my wall and a guy comes in and fixes it and then I notice the marks, I blame the repairman. But if
Mhm.
they had seen everything, they would have checked their instant replay and said, no, those marks were already on the wall. My team
Mhm.
didn't do that. Sorry, they're on
Yeah.
there. Find someone to fix it. But that level of transparency protects everybody.
Completely, completely. Look, I can completely relate to what you're talking about because one of my roles in the last 5 years was working for a hearing aids company, and I remember doing this massive exercise around, what is our customer experience and what are the issues or the pain points that our customers are facing when they interact with our brand, right? These are audiologists, right? So these are like mom and pop clinics, right? Or one person, who's an audiologist is running a business, several thousand of them across the country, so you have thousands and thousands of these kinds of locations. Each of them have their own unique things. So they have to give very detailed specifications so that the hearing aid is designed for that particular patient. And of course, what happens, in some instances is that, the patient doesn't want it. So there's a return involved, or worse still, they buy it and then there's something that goes wrong with it and they have to get a repair done. And there's this whole back and forth that happens. And, the audiologist is trying to manage the patient's expectations because now they don't have a hearing aid in their ears, right? And, the company might say it's going to take 2 weeks, but it actually takes 4 weeks. It creates all sorts of angst, right? So I've done this huge piece of work to kind of like, map all these things out and say, well, what are the expectations and what can we do to meet and then exceed expectations? And as we were doing that, what you were describing around, using video and everything, I was sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, these are the kinds of companies that could benefit from it, because then at least it gives the audiologist transparency, it gives the company transparency when they're interacting with the patient, it goes both ways, and none of that today exists, in my opinion.
Well, you ready for this? Because I've been thinking about this. I have a clinical background too. I built clinical technology for
Yeah.
Fortune 500. And so, in
Yeah.
this exact scenario, what
Hmm.
we built for self storage is we
Hmm.
have this feature called wall to call. And we use it
Hmm.
also for safety and security across campuses across the country, where you can scan a QR code. It will know where you're scanning that QR code or what you're scanning it from. And then it will ping the call center, and it's instant live video. So, it's no phone audio, it's scanning with your camera,
Yeah.
instant live video. So
Hmm.
imagine when that hearing aid comes on the box, there's ever need help, have questions, scan this QR code. They could scan it, video connect to the
Hmm.
person, and then hold up and this is how we put it in. But think of it for first time use on an insulin pump. Think of new
Yeah.
medications, all of these things. Think in retail, like IKEA.
Hmm.
You get a box and you got to assemble your desk and you're frustrated. Well, hey,
Yep.
ever need any help? And then when they scan it, they'll know what model it is. It can get
Hmm.
route to the right people. Right? Oh, it's
Yep.
the model hearing aid you have. No problem. And it gets right there. This wall to call it's coming, and it's going to disrupt all kinds of things. The one I'm most excited about is getting rid of lines at fast casual restaurants. I hate standing in line. That
Hmm.
will disappear, right? You're already starting to see a little bit of that with
Hmm.
Starbucks, Chick-fil-A's, and things like that with the app. But now when
Yeah.
you go, the worst thing for a restaurant is for someone to walk in, see a long line, and then they leave. So
Yeah.
it's bad for throughput. So now get rid of
Yeah.
the line, put your QR code on the table or on the wall. They scan it, instant person can come up, and they can be from anywhere in the world. You can centralize all your order takers. They can
Yeah.
take the order, put in the credit card right there, and
Mhm.
it goes to the kitchen. And once you pay for your food, you're very unlikely to leave, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
we got to get rid of lines. We got to get rid of waiting. Like these are the things that customers hate. Nobody likes to
Mhm.
wait in line. I've never met a single person on this planet that likes to wait in a line.
Well, James, I've seen that actually happen in India already. So, the technology and the applications and the use cases I've seen in Asia, I'm so surprised why the US is so behind in some of these situations. But what you're describing is very doable. It's very, very doable.
It's already happening. The great change. And then the next layer, obviously, is the AI layer that you start layering in. So
Mhm.
when live video is coming in, there's 3 data streams coming in. The first data stream is video, the second
Yeah.
data stream is audio, and the third data stream is data. Think of like Bluetooth on your Apple Watch, right? That's the third line. So these come
Yeah.
in through a media server. Our company Live Switch is actually named after the nerdy part of a media server. It's called Live Switch. There's a live switch that's going on in there.
Mhm.
So that's our nerdy side coming out. But as this data is coming in, you can process this through AI lenses, right? So thinking like on audio, like people need measurement tools. That's what we're building right
Mhm.
now, like measurement tools on the video. Like we just added laser guidance where you can laser guide people around
Yeah.
on the video. All the audio that's coming through can be translated. Think of English as a second language.
Mhm.
Also transcripted, which everyone's seen before as well. Then other layers of you can start connecting it to other pieces. So imagine if you're an electrician and I can connect it to electrical code, right?
Mhm.
Because if I don't
Mhm.
put your stuff in right, I might burn your house down. So this AI can watch as you're working, as you're talking to it, line it up against the code and make sure that you're the
Mhm.
code.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And
Wow.
where I want to go next, and I'm just going to take you to the future because this is a futurist type
Yeah.
podcast, is when the phones go away. Like, what's going to displace the phone, right? It's on my face right now. Lightweight,
Mhm.
we're years away from it, but it's just starting. You're seeing what Meta is doing with their glasses, just putting live streaming video camera. Now,
Mhm.
Oakley, Warby Parker, they're all connecting. Well, we can start to take that live stream and throw it through AI to connect these pieces. Imagine I'm an electrician wearing my
Mhm.
glasses and get an assistant, and there's speakers in here that can I can speak to it, talk to it, and do
Yeah.
this and get this out of my hand because it's hard to hold this up while I'm doing things. So that's
Yeah.
the next great race that we're racing towards. But connecting all of these systems together, and that's why everything we do is an open API, so we
I
can connect into anything.
we need to talk offline because I know somebody I can make an introduction to you for that.
Sounds great. Would love it.
But tell me, so you jump to the future, but before I want to spend time on that too. But I want to kind of like come back to the live switch, the current state today. So you gave some really incredible use cases, right? Um, where are you, a lot of these are like, B2B companies, obviously, that's kind of like where you've kind of like, obviously, started from. On the B2C side, there's obviously opportunities there. We kind of like touched upon that as well. How are you seeing your business evolve from that perspective? I'm just curious to hear that part first before we go on to the next
Yep.
phase.
There's I have to deal with two customer buying experiences, right? The one where someone's buying from me, but then when for like a home service, again, I'll pick on them, their
Yeah,
customer's customer, right? Their
yeah.
customer is very important to us. And so
Hmm.
we are following not just in the beginning when we're doing that virtual estimate, but that is all being recorded and now being handed off to the installation team. The installation team will
Hmm.
watch that video so they know what was agreed upon. It holds the salesperson accountable, making sure they're not selling world peace, and then they're
Hmm.
determining what tools they need to bring out, and it's streamlining communication so the customer no longer has to repeat themselves. They just show up on
Correct.
site, they know exactly what they're trying to do, and they do a
Hmm.
pre-walk around video as they're doing the work. They're taking videos. Like imagine if you have a multi-day work as a owner, you want to see that work, whether it's commercial work or residential work. Now you're seeing
Hmm.
the progress of that work, which you can comment on. And then
Hmm.
what we're doing is when they get on property, they're putting up QR codes on property where anybody can scan it. So if a subcontractor, even a customer is like, your guys are leaving tools everywhere, scan it, take a video. So it's starting to get into the operational side. So if someone's a project manager, we're trying to save trips in trucks, trips on airplanes, and allowing them to see what their other coworkers are seeing, or maybe a senior
Hmm.
tech talking to a junior tech, right? And allowing that senior tech to actually sit back at home and connect with the junior techs that are out on property. In addition, these QR codes are being left as leave behinds and as marketing tools. So I'll go pick on restoration again. Imagine I want to in marketing. There's a neighborhood or kinds of businesses I want to go after. Our customers are sending like free little stickies and things to put up. Ever experience loss? Call us or scan this QR code to take a video, and it will send it to you, and we can see. Oh, I've already seen it. They're trying to box Google out. No more restoration near me or plumber near me. They're hanging these
Hmm.
QR codes, all, like the plumber has it on the water heater, the electrician on the breaker box, the restoration company on the you know uh, refrigerator. And then for commercial business, if you ever have an issue in commercial business, it's all about speed. So they're having backups of things, or maybe equipment suppliers. Like if I'm supplying you certain kinds of equipment, maybe it's high-end medical equipment or whatever it might be. Now they're applying these QR codes, and they know what kind of piece of equipment it is because they're labeling
Right.
it, and they know exactly where it is. They even know the location. So they're putting these QR codes to be able to, again, that wall to call feature. So we're starting to
Yeah.
get into operations. Also think customer testimonials, uploading all these videos and photos to their website, because AI, as you know, they are scraping websites and looking for real video and real photos. So as you add that to your Google business profile, as you put that on your social media, as you put that on your website, the LLMs are all crawling through that to see who's authentic and real. It's actually
Hmm.
these systems want to surface the best information. They're competing for who can surface the best information the fastest. And these are the kind of lenses that our AI friends are looking through to make sure to surface that.
And there's an authenticity factor there too, right? Because when you have live video or video in general, right, you can authenticate that. It's not a bot. It's not, fraudulently done. That you can never go verify with text, for example. With this multimodal system that you're describing, you've built in a whole layer of transparency, if you want to call it that, even from a data collection perspective too, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The level of data collection we're getting is incredible. The amount of data that we're receiving, and then we're able to see it across all these different industries, looking for patterns and different pieces for prompts. Right, we're starting to create prompts
Mhm.
from that, and then from prompts to forward-thinking prompts to even imagine. You said it earlier. You're a homeowner, and you're pointing it, and instead of it going right directly to a company, it might be going to assist you first. You might be able to take care of the problem without calling someone, right? And eventually, in between, will be an agentic AI person, not a real person, and then another layer of protection, right? They will have a video that you're talking with an
Mhm.
AI. And then
Mhm.
that when AI, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't understand what's going on. They'll pass it to the human connection piece.
Right, right.
That's where we're headed.
Oh my gosh, like my mind's going in like 10 different directions. So let me start by asking you a simple question. Well, simple to me, but not simple, I'm sure. Is Do you have internal talent to help you do this?
Do I have internal talent? Like,
Let's say, for example, you want to build that agentic workflow that you just described right now, right?
right?
That's a skill set that you need to have internally to, or somehow to help you build and
Yeah,
create those
we
kinds of
don't.
systems, right?
Well, because we operate in an open API world, everyone's always trying to be the one ring to rule them all. Sorry, I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd, but the one platform to rule them all. I think
Yeah.
that's a fool's errand. I mean, that sounds great, but what I want to do is be good at the area that I'm good at in the puzzle, right? I'm not going to be I want to tap into all the different kinds of AI out there. Some AI is more advanced in different industries, and now we can start tapping into those different pieces. I want
Mhm,
to be and own the video side of it, and then the
mhm,
connection to that video, where I can route that through the systems I need to, and it gets to practical, tactical things. Imagine it's creating an automatic proposal from your work. Imagine it's
yeah.
creating a checklist from your work.
Mhm,
Imagine, it's mapping out your home. Imagine
mhm,
it's like, but we are experts at making those connections. So we've built an exchange platform, is what we call it, so we can bring in all kinds of different systems. That's why we're already under the hood of large systems like a Service Titan, like a HubSpot, because Service Titan, HubSpot, and the rest of these companies don't specialize in live video, and bless their heart if they ever do. It's literally that challenging. Live video is literally that hard. I couldn't believe it when I first sat down. Like I was telling you, when I sat down with the engineers and they were speaking English, that's where our center of excellence remains. Our computer scientists really are in
mhm,
the connection business as well as the video, audio, and data streaming business.
mhm.
Like we just did the Super Bowl this year and last year. We did MLB ballparks. You scan a QR code, they put you on the jumbotron. We're doing that. If you remember during COVID, during the bubble and NBA and WWE wrestling, we powered all of that. So we stay
Wow.
in our lane of. That's why the chief of police reached out to me, right? Because we're the video communications platform is kind of what we see ourselves as, but we can connect it
No,
to other pieces.
no, I totally get that. You're building, you're basically, tapping into the ecosystem around you to give you that expertise, because you don't have it internally, but you can tap into it to get you what you need. I totally get that. But even with that, I guess what I'm kind of like, trying to allude to, and this is more for the benefit of the audience kind of thing, right? Which is that even as companies do that, there still has to be handoffs that happen. There still has to be some sort of connections that need to occur that require human oversight and human expertise to know how to connect those things together in the right
Right.
way. And personally, for me, I think that's a new skill set for a lot of people, right? And are there potential roles out there that could be emerging with the
Yeah.
new sort of skills that didn't exist in the past, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, that interface role is very emerging, right? So as you start to connect the pieces, how does the
Yeah.
individual connect those pieces, and what does that look like, and how does that information surface, and what is this new method of surfacing information, right? Like when I want to connect the meta glasses that go
Yeah.
into video, that goes into the AI, that then returns the information back to the meta glasses with audio speaking or a transcript, right? It's a flow, it's a connection. These API connections and this interface connection is enormous right now, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah.
in the future, when someone says, "Hey, we're AI," it's gonna like me saying, "Hey, I have electricity at my business." Like, of course
Yes.
you have AI. Like, we're already well past that. I mean, it's a hot button right now, but it'll be constantly like, I've got electricity. It won't
Mhm,
be your business's main feature of differentiation. Now, if you don't
mhm.
have just like if you don't have internet or electricity, it's gonna be a hard to compete in the business world, right?
Yeah.
It's just like you if you don't have AI, but that piece is already coming. So you're on to the next piece, which is interfacing with it, and then the final piece, and the bigger that what will be bigger than AI is the
Mhm,
data. Data is important. So we're getting, I mean, I have thousands and thousands of users just holding up their phones, giving me the data, right? And
mhm,
we're
mhm.
putting it on big data warehousing, right? That data is going to be the new moat. And who has the data will rule, not who has the AI.
Right. And first party data is obviously the critical thing. Look, at Spotify, for example, there's a reason why they can have such a high level of personalization, because they got millions of users worth of data on their listening, selection of choice, and choices for podcasts or audiobooks or music. You can really narrow down to the individual of a segment of one, if you want to call it that, because you've got the data and they've mastered that skill set, in my opinion.
And
But
we are
you've
getting
got the
some of
same
the
thing.
most sensitive data. right? So you see
Yeah.
companies now mapping exterior, like a Google Maps, right? Like
Yeah.
they're getting the exterior of homes. We're getting the
Mhm.
interior of homes. You're not gonna have Google Maps or Apple or someone knock on your door and say, "Hey, can we walk through with our cameras of your house?" Not happening. But
Yeah.
through our platform,
Mhm.
through doing whether someone's moving, electrical work, restoration, we are
Mhm.
getting the inside video of different locations with, and then plopping a GPS on there. So we're getting extremely hard to get data.
So that opens up a new door around privacy and security,
Correct.
right? So talk to us about that.
Yep, we're SOC 2 certified, so governments use our stuff, and we're actually safer than a phone call. So if someone says, "Hey, like I'm scared to go to video," I'm like, "Well, the phone call you're on right now is more dangerous and transferring to what we have." The
Mhm.
technology we use under the hood is incredibly encrypted, and SOC 2 certified, and so because of the sensitive nature of especially our most sensitive customers, because
Mhm.
big companies will come to us and will power a certain video, so you can imagine some stuff that we have to deal with. But we've just applied all of that. Like when you're reinventing the 911 phone call, we've applied
Yeah.
all of those certifications to the work that we're doing with home service companies or whomever's using us with what we've been talking about. So that is our definitely our highest priority, and we have different ways to delete, get rid of things, but everything is running encrypted through for this reason.
Got it. So when you talked about the fact that you get to map out the interiors of homes and so on and so forth, and with GPS, obviously that makes it very location specific. Consumers can react and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm giving this away," and blah blah blah. You're saying that, hey, look, we got the encryption there, and we got this, the systems built in so that it protects the end user, right?
That's right.
Um, but importantly, with all that data, are y'all utilizing it in any particular way at all at the moment, or do you see any potential value in being able to utilize that data, or are y'all staying
Oh,
away
I
from
see
it?
a ton of value because of the
Yeah.
3 channels that we're collecting, right? We're collecting the
Hmm.
video channel, the audio channel, and the data channel. Those can
Right.
all be run through LMs. Like, I can ask, like, "What's the most common question painters ask on an initial walkthrough?" What are we
Yeah.
seeing during the walkthrough, the pre-walk arounds? You can start
Yeah.
connecting dots across all different kinds of companies, creating prompts that can help to create and produce other tactical and practical things like a proposal, like a
Hmm.
contract,
Hmm.
like a checklist. And we can start to look across and identify holes and almost become the expert system within all different kind of industries. So
Hmm.
it's going to take a little while, but we're not 10 years away, you know?
No, no, no. I totally get it. But at least you got the North Star now in a way, right? In terms of what's possible, and then it's just a matter of how quickly you can, get the resources available to help you realize that, because the technology is also available by the sounds of it, right?
Oh, yeah, and what's beautiful is
So.
that we have unlimited storage. We're built on the same infrastructure like Netflix is. We're built on the same, so we can handle incredible scale. And so, as we collect these videos and data and we store them in cold storage, when we do have the technology, we can go back, grab those
Mhm.
videos, photos, and things out of cold storage, run it through the modern systems that are being created now, and then
Mhm.
produce. Because the having those videos over a long periods of time,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying data is going to be the new moat, and the companies that have
Yeah.
that data are the ones that
Yeah.
are going to be treasured. We think the most, but that's not the case today. I think people understand that, but I think what's valuable today is, do you have AI, right? Are you
Mhm.
using AI? How is
Mhm.
that being applied? What problems are you solving with that? Um, so I think things will evolve. Like I said, AI will become electricity.
I think it's already there, to be honest with you. Like you said, and I do believe that people are not thinking yet about the next phase of it as much. I was at a conference back in March where, I was walking through the hall where everybody was presenting, or had their booths and everything. Everybody had something that said AI powered, AI engineered, powered by AI, you know, different vernacular. And I kind of like almost made a joke about it, saying, everyone's running through ChatGPT and use every kind of like adjective possible, but at the end of the day, that's not really your differentiator. It's really the value add that you bring, you know um, kind of thing. So what is that value add that you're giving? And none of them could really articulate
That's
it
right. And what
effectively.
problem you solve? AI is like this like
Yeah.
whitewash catch-all. Like I have no idea. When you say we
Yeah.
have AI, like to your point, like you're actually devalue. You don't know your value. To your point, like when you could.
Yeah.
That's why I like to call it the practical and tactical things that you're doing with AI. To your point,
Correct.
like how are you going to
Yeah.
change my life? Which is why we're
Mhm.
going to see the rise of AI companies and then the quick fall because they don't know what their value is. They've just connected into other systems and put a little interface on it or vibe coded for a while, and you're like, you don't understand what you're, and nobody can understand you
Mhm.
at your booth. You're spot on. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And sadly, right now, most of the conversations around productivity and efficiency gains, which is obviously there. No one's I'm not diminishing its value from that perspective. It's there, but the actual value add, I think, is in the customer experience side of it, and the
That's right.
personalization side of it, right? And that's where you can actually open doors. And I think that's where innovation, creativity, and critical thinking play such a big role in being able to imagine what those things are. And that's one of the reasons when you reached out to me and said, Yogesh, can we talk on the podcast? And as you explained to me what your business does, I was like, yeah, I'm in, because you're providing a value that nobody else can, right? Using a technology um, you know that's available, but you package it in a way that makes it so relevant.
That's right. And, as technology and as more competitors come into where we're at, our
Mhm,
most competitive advantage, in my opinion, is the customer buying experience. Like we literally send our
mhm.
engineers and product people to our customers. Like we're talking about, I'm sending an engineer to a moving company, right? And they're moving boxes. I'm like, and then they're at someone's house. Like you need
Yeah,
to be there because when you're in with your customers and you're listening, like
yeah,
you heard my story. I went from reinventing a 911 phone call to now helping with virtual estimates for a moving company.
yeah.
Right? I I found a home for the tool, and then it sticks into their process, and now
Mhm.
it increases the customer buying experience where customers like, "Why doesn't everybody do this?" Now it's
Exactly.
to a place where I'm getting in front of people like, "Oh, my home service guy used your stuff the other day." I'm like, "Yep," and I'm excited to as that see that transition to something I drew out on my iPad at 3 in the morning 3 years ago to becoming, a universal technology across, the world, has been
Amazing.
very, humbling.
So you talked about one thing which I think for the next few years I think is going to be a big deal, which is data, right? And how do you manage all that stuff? I totally am tracking with you on that. But then earlier in the call, you also mentioned about like next generation of what's possible, where the smartphones may disappear, and tech will become a lot more miniaturized and part of other components as well, right? So you talked about glasses being one of them. Hearing aids is another one for those who are who suffer from that. But even like those rings, I see all these rings that people are wearing nowadays. I forget the name of the brand, but it's capturing your health trends. All these things at some point will become interconnected as well, I would imagine.
That's
And
correct.
how are you thinking about all that stuff? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts.
All right, I'm gonna this is when I start talking, and this is James from the future, okay? Um,
Yep.
so the real race, I mean, along with getting the rings and getting vitals of what you're going on and things around your home,
Yeah.
you're gonna watch Apple start installing cameras, like race to get more cameras into your home, that
Mm,
they all connect and work together, and things are more fully automated. Whether they'll come in through security systems, right? Is how they'll
mhm.
come, but then from there they'll start using because again they're trying to get inside the home next, right? So they can really serve in
Mhm.
that way. And then if we go to the evil side, let's try not to do that. Let's go to like the positive, like
Yeah.
changing and making more convenience. But the next piece in the fight, as we talked about earlier, is going to be eyewear, right? This right here is going to be what gets rid of your phone,
Hmm.
gets rid of your TV, uh,
Hmm.
I mean, think about not having TV. You won't need it because
Yeah.
I try to get people think about the Iron Man. This is where AI and hardware meet.
Hmm.
Jarvis, right?
Hmm.
And that putting things out in augmented reality through a lightweight. This is really tough to build for. Technology has to get more powerful and smaller to fit into a frame of a glass to be
Yeah.
light. The reason that Apple Vision didn't really take off, right, is because it's too heavy.
Yeah.
It's too restricting. You really can't walk around, even though I saw Jamie Neistat walk around town cities
Mhm.
with it on there. It's not practical. But once it's here, there's no need like your navigation's right in front of you here. Your phone, you
Mhm.
can just tap. Like the
Mhm.
cameras on the lenses will pick up what you need, right?
Yeah.
Or you can display TV anywhere you want, right? You can
Mhm.
media, entertainment, like the
Mhm.
browser will be so Apple Vision is giving us a vision of the future, but it needs to really scale back into that lightweight frame, and it's going to affect how we work. It's going to affect how we entertain, communicate,
Mhm.
everything. And you'll be able to do some of the wildest experiences once it's universal, because then big business will come behind it. And imagine like, hey, I'd like to sit courtside for the Lakers game, and they'll
Mhm.
have a camera there, and you can look around. And oh, I also want to sit next to Yogesh and watch the game, so you'll be right here. Right? I've seen all
Right.
this with other big companies. We do a lot of
Yeah.
boutique work. This stuff is coming, and it is wild. And then you'll have
Wow.
full like of an instant replay. You'll be able to spin things 360. You'll be able to do all kinds of incredible, delightful experiences, and it'll change every industry. But something will this phone will go away at some point, and hopefully phone numbers. My major goal is I want to get rid of telephony. I want to replace. I want to get rid of the phone number, just like they cut the cord. I want to cut the phone number, and we can do that with our communications platform.
Oh
And
my God. That's funny. A bit of a segue here for a second, but my dad worked for a telecommunications company for 46 years, I think. He started off as a Morse code operator for this company during World War II, and he was based in Iran for 2 years during the war uh, as a Morse code operator, and then he switched into accounting, and then his career progressed from that perspective. But so I have stories from my dad, you know, talking to me about that kind of stuff, from back in the 1940s, and here you are talking about I want to cut telephony, so I'm thinking to myself like, oh my gosh, look how far we've progressed in that sense.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, if we actually land on Mars, which is kind of wild to think about, ET will
mhm.
need to phone home, and it's not going to be on the landline. It can't. It was physically not possible. Right? So
Right.
it'll need to be through
Yeah.
these different forms of real-time communication through web servers and things of that nature, but it'll
Mhm.
enhance the whole thing. The worst part of your phone is your phone, right? Imagine being
Yeah.
able to put in different groups of people that you wanna talk to and how you want to be talked to and when, and
Mhm.
putting an AI assistant within that. And
Mhm.
so, like, hey, video calls are these people, texting's these people. Like, you'll have full control of your communication, how you like it, and we'll match people up, when the phone number, goes away. I'm very excited about that. I can't believe we haven't done that already. It's crazy to me, but whatever.
So, we've talked a lot about different things, right, in terms of what's possible, right? And especially in the context of video, are you seeing um, uh, areas, if I was to ask you and say, hey, James, tell me about, you know, your wish for, right? You talked about telephony being, the end of telephony being one of them. I get that, but I'm thinking even beyond that, where if you saw a world 10 years out, and you were to say, hey, with where technology is today, with what that's coming, and where you could imagine what could be next, what would that world look like to
Yeah,
you?
our mission statement is human connection, right? I never wanna lose that. I mean, I guess to me, that's my biggest fear of AI is we
Mhm.
lose human connection, and
Mhm.
that is not replaceable by tech.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's one thing for an AI bot if my mother passes and say, I'm sorry to hear about your mother." It's another thing if a real human tells
Mhm.
me, "Hey, I'm sorry to hear about that," that emotional side, the
Yeah.
human connection side, this crazy thing called love, this crazy thing that can go global, right? So, I
Mhm.
really hope that we never lose that, and my goal being in the video space is that we can help remain and keep that connected, that a real person is still going to be
Mhm.
needed in all kinds of different situations, not
Mhm.
just in our personal relationships, but our business
Mhm.
relationships and just world. And now that the world's getting smaller and smaller, right? Able to use this video, like you and I may never meet physically,
Mhm.
in a physical space, but because of video, what we're doing right now, using StreamYard, I'm able to see you, you're able to see me. We have a human connection, and that to me fills my bucket up of what I need now to feel
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, I think for me, that's the one area I really don't wanna to miss, and I think that's the special part of what we do.
So, have you reached out to dating apps? I'm just curious because that's one place where human connection is really in need for, right?
Yep, we've had a few, reach out to us. We have some things that I wanna be sensitive to that I don't wanna
Mhm.
stream,
Yeah,
right? We
of
have,
course.
like, and it's tough, like, when you get pressure from a board, "Hey, if someone paid you $30,000,000 to stream adult entertainment, no, we're not doing it. Like,
Mhm.
there's certain things I don't wanna stream. So there's that sensitive side,
Yeah.
and it's okay. I mean, people do whatever they wanna do, right? But as an
Mhm.
organization, as a company being privately held, we're able to kinda draw some lines in certain areas. So
Of
there's gonna be
course.
things like dating apps that are gonna be good ones, right? Like ones that's like, "Oh, man, we see marriages coming from that." But I don't wanna know if I wanna stream dating apps that it might be for other purposes that we're not trying to
Mhm.
promote. And so we have to
Mhm.
walk that line. It's a really
Yeah.
tough line to walk,
Mhm.
and it's a moral line in some cases, and everyone's like, "What is morality?" So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's tough sometimes to draw lines because not everyone's gonna like you, right?
Yeah.
So we're at peace with that. We're at peace that not everyone will like us, but there's certain areas that we just say no to, and other
Yeah.
live streaming companies will say yes to, but
Mhm.
that's where we're at as well.
No, I get that. Look, it's funny that you brought that up because um, going back to the hearing aids example, I kind of fell into this conversation around stigma because you just brought it up in a way about adult entertainment, right? And what how your technology could potentially be used in that space. And you're like, nope, I don't want to stay. I want to stay away from that, which is a totally respect that. One of the things that I've learned, is that you have to break down the stigma so you're clear about what is the stigma that you're really solving for, right? For a brand, you don't have that issue in your case, right? But let's say, for example, I'm going to paint the scenario for a second. Let's say you decided to go into the dating app space, and this becomes part of your issue, and then you're suddenly dealing with the stigma that's associated with it, right? Um, there is a pathway to help normalize and destigmatize a brand if that were to happen. And quite frankly, I've actually spoken to people in that space, as well, and because, uh, one of the things that completely fascinates me about the stigma thing is that because they're dealing with so many restrictions all the time, they have to be far more creative, and they're probably the ones who are leaning far more into technology to solve for their business problems, right? More than the traditional companies, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
So if you really want to see where innovation's headed, sometimes you have to look at the adult entertainment space
Oh,
and the
absolutely.
cannabis space to kind of see what's actually possible, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
mean, my heart goes out to those spaces. Those are not easy, and they're because you're really close to slippery
Yeah,
slopes too, right? Where it can get bad quickly into things that are like we would never want to see streamed, And so, um,
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
we have a term: "When in doubt, bug out." We're gonna
Yep.
bug out of that one. So,
Totally get it. And by the way, I'm not advocating anything. I'm just gonna just having a
no, I
conversation about
totally get it. It's a sensitive subject. I
so,
know that. I think people understand what we're saying and what we're not saying.
exactly, exactly. So tell me, with the few minutes that we have left, I want to hear a little bit about your leadership style, because as I've been hearing you talk, I can see you're a builder, I can see you're an innovator, and I can see also some of your leadership come through, especially in the last conversation we just had around the stigma thing, right? But talk to me about your personal leadership style. Tell me what that is.
Yeah, I think I really like to make myself redundant, right? I think everyone's really racing to the top. They want the bigger title,
Mhm.
they want the bigger salary, they want the bigger things. I'm going the way I like to go the way no one else is going. I'm going the bottom. I'll be the chief custodial officer. How does that sound? And really, I try to
Yeah.
train into my team how to be owners, right? And use little
Mhm.
examples like, hey, have you ever washed your rental car?
Mhm.
No, you've never hand washed your rental car. No one does that because they don't own it. If you're
Correct.
an employee, if you see trash on the ground in the office, you don't stop and bother to pick it up because you're like, "Oh, that's someone else's job." An owner will
Mhm.
step down, pick up the trash, put it away. But having this ownership mentality and owning things are what we always talk about. Like if there's ever an issue with a customer, if you're the first to hear about it, you own it all the way until that customer's happy, even if it's not your job, because you own it and you care about that customer. If there's an issue in the company, you own it. You put a name by it. You put a date by it. Like I want to know when it's going to get done, right? Don't just
Mhm.
put a Jira ticket in if you're a tech person and just put it into the pile, right? We like
Mhm.
to own it, have names by it, ownership by it is a big thing we're trying to teach is ownership. The other thing is I am very advocate for the truth, even when it hurts because truth doesn't always feel good. As an example, I inherited a team member at one stage, and they weren't getting good performance reviews. This is at a previous company, and but they didn't know why. And so I went around and I learned everything about this employee and our team member, and I sat down in our first one-on-one ever, first time I ever had a one-on-one, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff that I'm not sure you know." And so I went through all of it. And at the end, he's like,
Mhm.
"This is the hardest one-on-one I've ever had. It hurts." I'm like, "Well, you have 2 options, right? Option 1, let's just quit. Like, you're not tied to this, let's just quit. Or 2, let's do something about this. Let's actually face it and see what happens." Well, he
Mhm.
went off and his career took off, right? He didn't like that truth, but he did decide to do something about it. And the crazy story with this one is I went to go play golf in Scotland. I was on a beautiful golf course, Cruden Bay, and I'm on, I don't know what hole number it was, and I hear James Hatfield. I'm like, in Scotland. So I'm first of all, I'm thinking something bad happened, right? Like
Of
someone's
course,
trying to
yeah.
get me. This is not going to be good. It was him. It was him. First time
Oh
we
my
ever
God.
physically met was on a golf course in Scotland. He ran up. He gave me the biggest hug. I
Oh my
hadn't seen
God.
him, for maybe 10 years. And he's like, you changed my whole career. He's
Oh
like,
wow.
he was getting selfies. It was unbelievable. But it came from a place of, I love you enough to tell you the truth. And we're going to have that conversation right now. But people are
Mhm.
scared to tell you for whatever reason. I don't know.
Mhm.
But this is the kind of thing that we do in our organization is bad news up front. Tell me the truth. Like, check your title at the door. Your title only matters on LinkedIn. And I don't care if it's our first day of it. This is what I told my intern the other day. I was like,
Mhm.
I'm listening to you. And I want you to call me out if you see something that you think I can improve in or something that's not right. I don't care that's your first day and that you're an intern. Right. Some of the
Mhm.
best ideas I've ever seen came from the people that just don't get listened to. And there's tons of stories we've heard over the times. Like if you've heard the Frito-Lay story of the janitor who that they put out a company wide for a new thing, and he came with like the fire Cheetos or something, and
Yep. Yep.
like it's beautiful. But the company was willing to listen to anybody, and they meant it. Like, do you mean it?
Yep.
You can give it a bunch of lip service. We can say all these nice things, but
Mhm.
until you actually really do it, I think these are the kind of fundamental building blocks that I like to build and making myself redundant. I handed off my. I'm no longer the product officer. I'm handing off the revenue role. Like I want to. I do this thing called freedom mapping. There's a beautiful book called Making Money is Killing Your Business. I'd
Mhm.
recommend it. And it talks about mapping out your processes and making yourself redundant and giving ownership to people that are closest to the data. We always talk about that as
Mhm.
well. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of my philosophies.
That's amazing. And there are a couple of things that you said that highly resonate with me, right? The first one is listening, right? You were listening to your customers, which is what got you to where you are in your business today in the first place, right? And the example you gave about the Las Vegas story, where you came in with fresh pair of eyes and you saw something, and you solved a major pain point for them because they wouldn't have had the wherewithal to do it themselves. One thing I learned at P&G, for example, and one of my managers, told me this, and I've lived with that my entire career, is that when you get new people coming in, they're looking at your business with a fresh pair of eyes. Listen to what they're pointing out, because they're seeing things that you're not seeing because you're not part of the system, right? And here's an example of something that I did, as a new hire. I was a 25-year-old in Geneva, Switzerland, and the company had just announced this whole thing called SGE, which stood for Strengthening Global Effectiveness, which was mainly a downsizing that was happening after a very long time at P&G. So our department head said, okay, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to find ways to be efficient, and do stuff. And this is back in the 90s, early 90s, right? So one of the things that would happen is when you prepared your market research reports, right, there was an admin who would type the report, right, make photocopies of the report, and this usually was about 4 pages, kind of thing. And then she would take this stamp, with red ink, and she would stamp each report saying confidential, right? Not to be distributed, whatever. And I kind of asked the question. I said, why don't we just, we can, first of all, we can now use a word processor. Back then was a system that P&G was using called Multimate, which I don't even know if it exists anymore or not. This is before the days of Word, right? And so why don't we use that so that it's easy to, make edits and stuff like that? And number two, can we not just put down confidential in that as well, so she doesn't have to constantly, like, rubber stamp it, if you want to call it that? And everyone looked at me and saying, great idea. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, why did it take me to see that and y'all couldn't see it yourselves? And it comes back to what you just were talking about, so I'm a big believer in that, number one. And then the other thing that you said, which also resonated with me a lot, is you know, uh, telling people the truth, right, and being authentic about that. I've also had my share of experiences in that space as well, but and I don't want to belabor the point, but I see so many companies that cannot do that and will not do that at the end of the day, and quite frankly, I'd rather not be engaged with those kinds of people anyways. I don't have the patience anymore to deal with that, if you know what I mean,
Oh yeah.
But what you're describing is a unique skill set, and quite frankly, these are the companies that will not only survive, they'll thrive because they're not sticking to their values, but they're living their values day in and day out, basically. So
Yeah. If you
kudos
can't
to you,
tell each
man.
other the truth, you're probably not going to tell your customer the truth, and therefore,
Exactly.
you're
Exactly.
when the truth does come out,
Mm.
it's tough. It usually will come to light. We can always tell people I can smell a rose and I can smell a fart.
Exactly, exactly. So listen, James, I don't know if you noticed, but we're almost up at the top of the hour. So um, before we end, I have one last question for you, which is, um, I've asked you a bunch of questions, and you've been so great at giving such fantastic examples. Is there anything that I've not asked you that's still top of mind for you that you would love to share with our audience?
No, you're not going to ask this because you're a humble individual. I can tell, and you're an educator. So what I'm going to do is end with a challenge. I'm going to
Okay.
challenge that if anyone here listened to this and you got one piece of value, one that
Mhm.
you will share it, because I bet most of you won't. What you'll do is just keep on going with your life, right? But the
Yeah.
beauty of life is it's better to give than receive. So if
Hmm.
you got something, whether it's from this episode or previous episode, doesn't matter. Just once you get something from this podcast, from this show, please just hit the share button. Your other colleagues need to know about this. Your other friends need to know about this. Not building empires of revenue here. This is
Yeah.
all for education and to give back. So let's not
Hmm.
be a dead end person. Like in the relay race, you hand off the baton. Don't be a dead end. Turn around and pass the baton and share it. So I want to leave with that challenge. And then of
Oh
course,
my
if
gosh,
you want
love
to
that.
get to me, right? I'll talk to anyone. If you're listening, you want to talk, just reach out to me on LinkedIn, James Hatfield, Live Switch. I'll respond. I definitely love connecting. I'll take care of anyone personally. Like if you go to our website, LiveSwitch, LIVSWITCH.com, and hit like demo, ask for me. I won't farm you off to anybody else. I'll take care of anyone here listening personally. And that's another guarantee I'll give.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. And I do want to call out Madeline as well. She's the one who connected the two of us. And for the audience, Madeline was a former student of mine in the spring of this year rather, I should say. And she reached out to me and says, Yogesh, I know exactly who you need to have on your podcast. And this is within a few weeks we are here. So Madeline, if you're listening, thank you so much. So
She'll be listening. She's working. I can message her right now. But yeah, she's great. I'm glad.
fantastic.
Thank you for training her up in the right way. She's wonderful.
Fantastic. That's exactly what I want to hear. So thank you so much. And thanks everybody for listening. We're going to be back on September 5th. I'm going to have a very different kind of conversation than what we just had right now. We're going to be talking to Cam Berard. She is a dating coach. And here's, James, this is going to be an interesting one for you. I'm not suggesting or implying anything. This is interesting because it is very different. She basically does a lot of content on TikTok and Instagram around her family. She is part of a throuple. So let that sink in for a second. So we think, if you look at, advertising on TV, we tend to show the traditional family, husband, wife, two kids and a dog with a white picket fence, right? That's our image of a family. But that only represents 18% of households in the US today. Back in the 70s, it was over 40%, but today it's only 18%. And there's a multitude of different family structures that are out there. And I've been following her content for some time, and I thought it would be worthwhile to bring her on so we can talk about identity and family structure and the stigma that happens in her case, to a certain degree. But she's doing an incredible job of educating people about her lifestyle. And I think there's something there for all of us to learn from because, even technology is evolving and disrupting, family structures are also changing at the same time. So it's something we should be paying attention to. So with that, thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you on September 5th.